An important component of accessibility is the provision of alternative text for images. Let's talk about what alternative text is, when to use it, and why context is essential. As you all continue to create and design curriculum, we want to keep in mind the needs of a wide array of students and attempt to anticipate the needs of our future students too. Most often, alternative text, which is typically referred to as alt text, provides accessibility to students who are blind or low vision. These students utilize assistive technology called a screen reader. Alt text provides the necessary information that an image conveys for those who cannot see it. There are additional benefits, however, to alt text. For one, it requires thoughtful and deliberate selection of images. Additionally, alt text for complex images, which we will review shortly, benefits all students, not just those with vision impairments. Before going into the various types of images and how you will write the alt text for these, it is important to recognize that context is essential. Alt text is not simply just describing what you see. It is considering the image, what the image is conveying, and what information is provided alongside it. Alt text is utilized to fill the gaps. If the intended information in the image is communicated within the text or by caption, alt text may not be necessary. Here is an example of how context changes the alt text. Take a look at the image on the right of Harvard Stadium, an old sporting complex with large concrete pillars, wherein two men are pictured, one running up the stands and the other looking out onto the field. With no context, you might describe the picture as I just previously did, or as, quote, a mostly empty football stadium with a man running up the bleachers, end quote. However, if the picture is accompanied by an article about the turnout at recent track tryouts, the alt text might read, Harvard Stadium, with two runners present, one standing and the other running up the bleachers. In a presentation about a recent renovation project, the alt text could read, Harvard Stadium with cracked concrete pillars. There are a few different types of images, and the alt text for these varies based on each type. These include informational images, complex images, functional images, and decorative images. Informational or informative images are utilized to provide content, evoke emotion, or promote insight. Alt text for these images should be detailed enough to convey the message, but still succinct. The diagram on the top of this bottle illustrates a counterclockwise direction for unscrewing a bottle top or cap. The information can be described in a short sentence, so the text alternative could be, push the cap down and turn it counterclockwise from left to right. Consider that an alternative technique would be to provide the instructions within the main content rather than alt text. This technique makes all information in the text available for everyone while providing an illustration for people who prefer to view the information visually. If more information than that of the diagram is intended to be conveyed by the image, it may be better to follow the approach used for complex images, which we will address next. Complex images are visual representations, such as charts, graphs, diagrams, illustrations, or maps that contain a wealth of information too large to succinctly describe in alt text. The image on the left charts the frequency several websites were visited on a monthly and quarterly basis. There is no brief way to communicate all the content delivered by this image. So how might you communicate the information provided for a complex image such as this? Here is an example. The overview summarizes the data provided. The value section provides the audience with the specific numbers for each site and period of time. Please note that the table was created within the PowerPoint app and is not an image itself, making it accessible to screen readers. Finally, the presentation section describes what the graph looks like visually. Typically, this information should be provided as text alongside the image or as a resource linked to the material. Functional images are pictures or graphics that are used to initiate actions and often include buttons or images that link to a function. For example, you see a simple image of a printer, which might link to printing the document or web page. The alt text here could read, "Print this page," as it should instruct the audience to the action or function rather than simply describing the image. The fourth type of image is pictures that are purely decorative. These images are not intended to provide content or information to the audience, but are simply placed to make something more visually appealing. Any information required for the audience would be given alongside the image, either within the text or within a caption. Decorative images do not require any alt text. Just leave this field blank. Whether one should treat an image as decorative or informative is a judgment that only the author or content creator can make, based on the reason for including the image on that page. Here are a few helpful questions to ask yourself when including images in your course content, podcasts, and presentations. First, is this a central part of the content? If so, the image should be described in detail. If you can do so succinctly, it is informative and you will create alt text. If it requires a longer description, refer to the Complex Images Guidelines. Is the image purely decorative? Great! You do not need to provide any further information. Is this image part of an assessment or activity? Be sure to describe the specific pieces of information needed to complete the task. Finally, if an action is required, highlight the functional role in order to facilitate navigation. Here is an image I borrowed from one of the pathology textbooks demonstrating the types of atelectasis that adults can acquire. On the right is the information provided within the textbook alongside the image. Below, where it marks figure 15.2, shows the caption that accompanies the picture within the book. The questions to ask oneself here are, what is the context? Is there anything the image conveys that is not communicated otherwise in the text or through the caption? If you use the image and the caption in a presentation, but the text from the book is not included, would alternative text be required? As an individual who is not a content expert, I wonder whether all the information provided is sufficient. For example, would a student who could not see the image understand that during contraction atelectasis, the lung is unable to expand in all directions? You are all the content experts and therefore can best evaluate this information. Thank you for your time. I hope you have a stronger understanding of the importance of text alternatives and feel able to begin incorporating them into your content. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out.